Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I am not John Campea. I'm Robert Meyer Burnett, and I'm here to fill in and do this companion video, one of many from our Avengers Endgame spoiler discussion that lasted, 48 hours, 72 hours. I have no idea how long it lasted, but it lasted a long time. So I'm here answering some of those questions that remained unanswered that you guys gave us supporting the channel. We thank you very much for that. So I'm just going to start answering them, and I'm really happy. I love it when John lets me do these companion videos because I have a blast. This first one comes from Sateka 13. The Avengers Assemble sequence with that piece of music, Portals, was freaking awesome. Yes, it was. Such a perfect sequence. I still get goosebumps thinking about it. Well, you and me both. What a great sequence that is. I mean, I love that sequence. I mean, awe-inspiring, jaw-dropping. What happens afterwards? I mean, my jaw hit the floor and stayed there. I had to look for it after the lights came up in the theater. Hector Jeter says, the biggest cheers from the 3 screenings I saw was the Avengers Assemble scene and Cap wielding Mjolnir. I had goosebumps on my goosebumps, John. Well, Hector, yes, you and me both, sir. I mean, it was one of those moments. I don't think in my life has there been a moment where an entire theater just let out that kind of a cheer. I don't remember, but it was amazing. Amazing. Darth Suthius says, I see a parallel between Thor and Luke. Both have great expectations from others and the universe. Then after they both failed, they both went into self-denial and questioned their place in everything. Darth, that's a pretty astute judgment. Yeah, I think you might be right about that. But you know what? That's life. It's so weird because we seem to want our heroes these days to just act one way, and that's the end of it. We don't want to give them any moments of self-doubt, or as the Rolling Stones said, their moment of doubt and pain. I think that happens to all heroes, so it happens. Anthony C. says, felt Cap's last scene should have been with Bucky. Well, you might be right about that, but it was Sam who's been an Avenger, and they fought together, and they were soldiers together, and I think Bucky still has a lot of healing to do. At least that's the way I saw it. I love the scene. But I understand why people would like to have had it with Bucky. I get where you're coming from. Anthony C. says, will Mjolnir return to the past like the Stones? Absolutely. We saw Cap taking it with him. He had to have returned that. It had to go back. Otherwise, what was Thor going to do? What was that Thor going to do? Straight Out Asgard said, if the Avengers needed a when to locate the stones, they should have gone back to the 20 days after Thanos first used the stones. That thought is giving me problems with the movie. Maybe. I don't know. That's not a bad observation. I'd have to think about that longer. I mean, the time travel in this movie and when they did what to whom and how, I think we're going to be puzzling over it for years. And actually, I kind of like it. Shaolin Outlaw says, Thor had the best character development in Ragnarok only to have it all destroyed by making him out to be a dumb fat joke. Just didn't need to continue for the whole film. Loved Endgame otherwise. Well, I don't think it was a fat joke. I mean, think about it. He lost Asgard. He lost his mother. He lost his father. He lost his brother. He lost his sister. And then he lost half the creatures in the universe. So, while the characters, I think, were ribbing him, they were sort of using humor to hopefully break him out of his funk. But in the end, I thought it made it even more triumphant, when he was there to take on Thanos in that final battle. I love that. Anthony C. says, I thought different time versions of the Avengers would unite to fight Thanos at the end due to a clip I saw. Obviously, it wasn't the case, but would have been crazy. Cap standing alone against an army. I love that so much. It was great. Really loved it. Dim-Sum05 says, Thanos was beating the shit out of Thor. You felt those punches and that stomp. Oof. The stunt coordinators the Russos pick are gems. So brutal. Yeah, I think they've gone... There was blood in Tokyo. Unlike, say, the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. This was a brutal, brutal, brutal film. It showed how bad things can actually get. Yeah, I agree with you. I like the fact these are superhero battles. These are titans. There's a lot of power being expended. It's a lot bigger and more brutal than an MMA fight, I'll tell you that. Anthony C. says, is Thanos' sword vibranium since it destroyed the shield? Or is that an adamantium hint? Not sure which metal is stronger in the comics. That's a good question. I don't think it was mined on Earth, so it's probably a different kind of metal. He certainly can wield that thing well, though. I can't wait to get the hot toy with that weapon. That's very, very cool. But yeah, I'd love to know what it was made of. But still, it shattered like Cap's shield. Straight Outta Asgard says, how did Thanos and his army went through the time portal when the Avengers needed a suit? Well, Ebony Maw and Thanos had very advanced alien technology. They probably figured out how to manufacture Pym particles and take care of business. Advance the tech further than it could have been advanced on Earth. At least that's the way that I read it. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I saw it. Blank YouTube says, I, 16, felt Tony's death as if he actually died. Well, you know what? I think we all did. It was a great death. As far as deaths go in movies, it was a heroic death, and he saved the world. And I like that. But man, we did feel it. I think everybody was like you. We all felt it. Bombus467 says, is Peter still in high school 5 years later? Well, here's the thing, people. He was coming back from a school trip. Think about the state of affairs, the events that happened in Endgame. Peter's coming back from a visit to a museum, field trip. Infinity War breaks out. He leaves the school bus. He takes off in a ship. We don't know how long, how many days have passed. How many days? A couple days? 1, 2, 3 maybe? However long it took him to jump to get to Titan. He fights the battle. He gets dusted for 5 years, and he comes back. From Peter's perspective, a couple of days have passed. Even though 5 years have gone by on Earth, he hasn't aged 5 years. 5 years didn't go by for him. He was dusted, and then he came back. He didn't even know he was dusted, or what happened to half the world, half the universe. So when he comes back to school, he's just going to pick up like he went on spring break or something. He still has to finish high school, even though 5 years have gone by. The world's got to have a lot of adjusting to do, and so will Peter. Darth Suthius says, to see the main three go from fighting each other in Avengers to them fighting together against Thanos, perfect. Just perfect. Darth Suthius, couldn't agree with you more. It was perfect. Totally loved it. So awesome. Frost 1977 says, I didn't even know Marvel was a thing until Raimi's Spider-Man films. I never read comic books as a kid. I just wondered why they never showed up on Super Friends. Oh, wait, I think Frost... that's 2 of 4. I don't know where 1 of 4 is. Where's 1 of 4, Frost? Oh, I missed it. Frost, I see what you're saying. Frost 1977 says, enjoyed Endgame in my top 7 MCU. Any MCU film with Cap automatically better than any without one to me. The only Marvels I knew about before MCU was Cap, Spidey, and the Hulk. Okay. I didn't even know Marvel was a thing until Raimi's Spider-Man films. I never read comic books as a kid. I just wondered why they never showed up on Super Friends. That's funny. If Endgame is a bittersweet, best part was Cap and Hammer. Endgame is bittersweet. The best part was Cap and the Hammer. It was Cap that got me watching the MCU. I skipped the non-Cap films until Ant-Man, and I'm happy Cap was with Peggy. If this is the last film with Cap, my interest in the MCU drops a lot. Hope it's not the last of Steve as Cap. Falcon ain't my Cap. Cap, Batman. Cap is better than Batman in my book. Well, Frost, I'd say this. Change is inevitable. It's a part of life. And I thought Steve had a fitting send-off. But if you feel that way, I'm totally, I'm with you. I appreciate you feel that way. But, give the MCU movies a chance. We're going to get Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu. We're getting the Eternals. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't know if we're ever going to see Steve Rogers again, but still, I think they're going to be worth watching. So tune in and report back and tell us what you think. K Major says, did you lose your mind when Cap started using the hammer? I know I did. I went bananas. Bananas. It was fantastic. Hector Jeter said, Rob, was that the spoiler that you saw? Yes. I saw Captain America wielding Mjolnir, and I was not happy about it. But it was amazing. I didn't know how and why. And when it happened, I felt like I was a little kid. Frost 1977 says, Cap seeing Red Skull returning the Soul Stone. I guess he would have to. I think there's a whole movie there. PJ Barnes says, bigger surprise. Black Widow dying or Cap wielding the hammer? You know what I have to say for me, I was surprised that Black Widow died. I didn't see that coming. But I expected them to wield the hammer. I really did. I expected that to happen. K Major says, how overpowering was Thanos, dude? Wasn't going down for nothing. I realized that this Thanos hadn't fought 3 groups of heroes. He was relentless. Yeah, I loved it. Thanos was battle Thanos. He was conqueror Thanos, and he kicked mighty ass. And I loved it, frankly. I thought it was great. Hector Jeter says, I laughed so hard when Thanos freaked out with Wanda. He literally was helpless and had a fire everything moment. Damn, she was powerful. Loved it. I love that too. Fire everything. Even down on our own troops, sir. It was great. And watching the wizards, watching all of the sorcerers wield those cool shields to protect their troops. I love that. It was great. Shaolin Outlaw says, Thanos trying to impale Thor in the chest with Stormbreaker. I know, right? How awesome was that? Badass. So many good moments in this movie. So many iconic things to look at. Garrett Couch says, well, Spider-Man made a grown man cry twice in 4 movies. Then Pepper came in and I was wrecked. And can we talk about Cap wielding Mjolnir? Well, I think everybody's talking about that. It was amazing. Even my dog is barking his approval. Amazing. Xavier Martinez says, Cap fighting with his shield and Mjolnir, no words. I know, right? I think we're all going to be shaking our heads just going, oh my God, for, at least the rest of the year. And that and the box office. K Major says, how many cry times did you have? Solid 2.5 for me. I think it was 3 actually for me, K Major. A lot of cry time in that movie. And you know what? The second and third times I saw it, cry time too. Also, Chinese Deadpool says, the smart thing is that they didn't really set rules. It's what Tony thought how it works. That's why I think things are set up for the multiverse. Yeah, the less they explain, the better, as long as they keep it believable. But yeah, they've set up a lot of stuff that I can't wait to see what happens. Buclodi says, despite knowing the spoilers, still got the feels. Me too. Even knowing that one thing was going to happen when it finally happened, man, it was cool. So cool. Loved it. When I saw Mjolnir Rising, I was like, Cinematic Galaxy says, when I saw Mjolnir Rising, I was like, are they doing what I think they're doing? And then it just reached Cap's hand, and I lost it. I lost my mind. Me too. It was incredible. I loved it. Fantastic. Cinematic Galaxy says, Karen Gillan was so great as Nebula in Endgame. Yeah, I thought Karen Gillan was definitely the MVP of the movie. I really liked her performance. A lot of pathos there, a lot of emotion. I was really surprised at how emotional I got because of it. I thought it was really good. Snake Jerusalem says, better entrance, Thor in Infinity War or everybody in Avengers Endgame. Everybody coming out was pretty great, but as far as a single cinematic moment, I thought Thor and that was, it was pretty great. Different moments, going from one individual's entrance to a whole army. A whole army, obviously, you've got the spectacle, but character-wise, what a badass moment for Thor in Infinity War. Loved it. Ryan C. says, never been big on MCU movies, but the next kid to me, losing his mind, like me with Star Wars when I was his age, made it really fun. I know. Kids in the theater, it was great. It was great seeing kids go bananas. Loved it. Luis Blanco says, I wish I got emails from a raccoon. I did love that line when Scarlett Johansson said that line. I thought that was great. Very funny. I mean, it really, that's all you need to know about the world of Endgame. The post, now that Earth has been touched and is part of the cosmic universe out there, getting an email from raccoons, probably the least of their problems. I really like that. David Reese says, love the movie, but I wanted Hulk versus Thanos rematch. Yeah, I think I think a lot of people did. I did, but we've seen Hulk smash. I really like what they did with Professor Hulk, and it was amazing. The effects were amazing. I thought it was great. Colby Harris says, was that kid standing by himself Harley from Iron Man 3? Yes, Colby, it was indeed. Aged a little bit, though. David Reese says, it felt like the 2014 Thanos was more in his prime. The fact that he was younger and at times stronger seemed more intelligent than Infinity War. As I said, I agree. He was battle Thanos. He was a different Thanos, which I liked. I thought that was great. I think it really worked for the film. Call of Duty God says, this movie was fantastic, bananas, bonkers, and a wet dream all in one. Plot holes, smot holes, who cares? So much fun and excitement and jaw-dropping scenes that I could not stay still in my seat, and my Depends were drenched. You know, even as an old man, I didn't put on the Depends, and I think my it was a mistake, because I woke up, or I got up out of the theater. I didn't wake up. I was never sleeping in that movie, but there was definitely a puddle beneath me, I'll tell you that. Call of Duty God says, over or under 75% of the audience had to dispose of their underwear after shitting themselves when Cap yielded Thor's hammer and Thor yielded Stormbreaker and his hammer at the same time. It was great. It was such a great moment. I mean, I don't know if people shit their pants, though. Didn't smell so bad in my theater. Maybe a little sweaty. But you never know. LeBrun007 says, hey guys, that movie was insane. I loved every minute of it. Now that Thor has had 2 hammers, how likely is it that we'll see Beta Ray Bill in a future movie wielding Meow Meow? I think we're going to see Beta Ray Bill. If I had to guess, maybe Beta Ray Bill would be just the kind of thing that James Gunn would do. I really think we might see it. I think he'll do it. Blue Rock says, where's Thor's hammer? Didn't see it on Cap's return. Well, he took it with him. He put it back at the end of the movie. He took it with him when he time traveled to return the stones. Call of Duty God says, that first scene when they confronted Thanos for the first time was amazing. And what about the MMA chokehold, John? The one and only badass Captain Marvel was doing to Thanos. She has swagger and the confidence, and I can't wait to see it later on. I like Carol Danvers. I really like Brie Larson in the role, and my favorite thing in terms of what happened in Endgame was when Thanos headbutts her, and she doesn't even flinch. That was awesome. Love that. Dominic French says, in the MCU, the heroes define the moniker doesn't define them. It would be weird for Falcon to become Captain America in name and costume. Maybe, but we might get used to it. I mean, look, of course everybody wants Cap to be Cap, but Cap's can't be Cap anymore. And I like the idea of someone else taking the mantle on of Cap. It's got to change it up, see what's going to happen, make it different. We'll see. Very curious, now that we know that they're making a Bucky and Falcon TV series, at least an 8-episode miniseries, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Call of Duty God says, I never cared too much for Hawkeye in these movies, but the relationship that they showed with him and Widow was so good, and I just love the storyline of the friendship and love the two these had. Totally agree, and I really love seeing him be a father, and it was really heartbreaking, and the burnt-out shell of a man he'd become. I really enjoyed what they did with Hawkeye in Endgame. Richly deserved. Jeremy Renner knocked it out of the park. Will Morris says, so Back to the Future is all just bullshit. Well, apparently so. I never thought of Back to the Future myself as a documentary, but who knows? Maybe there was a Twin Pines Mall, and there really was a Marty McFly, and he really did go back in time in a DeLorean. So you never know. Call of Duty God says, John and Robert, can we say now that Thanos is the second best villain of all time behind Vader? I freaking love this character so much, and by now, John, you have to pull the trigger and get the hot toy. I think he does. I don't know if he's the best. Vader's a complex villain, because I don't know, is Vader still great after we've heard all of his backstory? I liked him better when we didn't know much about his backstory, but, we'll see. I think Thanos, though, number one, right up there, one of the best cinematic villains of all time, and he was dangerous because he had a philosophy, as they said about the Videodrome TV show in that movie. Zaya says, I had a feeling that Cap would whoop Thanos' ass. Well, it was a close fight. It was pretty brutal. Cap got messed up. I thought, at one moment, Thanos had killed him. Marie Seifring says, so where is the 2012 Loki? Is he roaming around his own time with the Tesseract? I think that remains to be seen. I think we're going to find out in that new streaming series from Disney+. I think that's what's going to happen. Joseph Ziegler says, agree with you. The first 2 acts were okay. I'd say as a huge Marvel fan, the fan service itself consumed the story for me. I never felt truly invested, says Joseph Ziegler. I disagree with that for me. For me, it was really, I love the first 2 acts. I love seeing the aftermath of the snap. I thought they did a really fine job dealing with that. Really enjoyed it. Marie Seifring says, considering how Rocket got it, they don't show how Steve returned the Reality Stone. That would have been interesting to see. Yeah, how did the Reality Stone get back? And how did the Soul Stone get back? Definitely interesting. Can you imagine that conversation? Pardon me, miss. Ow! Marie Seifring also says, last question. The Ancient One said that the Infinity Stones created one reality stream. Thanos destroyed all of the stones at a certain point in time. Does that mean there are infinite reality nows? Now, Marie, that's a very good question. I don't know the answer to that. Very well could be. Who knows? Collins Azianium, that's a cool name. I don't know if I got it right. Thousands of theorists after Infinity War. How does Scott escape the quantum realm? Marvel, a rat. I liked it. That's chaos theory for you. You know, you just never know what's going to happen. But it did take 5 years. If it had taken like a month, I would have been like, but 5 years. It made sense. I mean, half the population gone. Things were just gathered and forgotten. Ryan B says, Endgame Thanos felt stronger than Infinity War Thanos with no stones. Felt his character didn't have those memorable moments from Infinity War, however. I don't know. I mean, I think Thanos, the way he talks, what he does, and the fights were brutal. The fights when he mixed it up at the end, man, that was some brutality. Blue Rock says, first showing of Endgame, lady sitting next to me, she cried, she laughed, she cried. I handed her tissues, and then she laughed through her tears. Then... I don't know. What's then? Zaya says, who put up the best fight against Thanos? I don't know. That's a good question. I think I love when all three of them. I love when the three, Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America, the three core Avengers, were going at it in the beginning of the battle. All three of them, and they were getting their asses handed to them. I love that moment. Zaya says, sniff, sniff. You smell that, guys? Sniff, sniff. I smell an Oscar campaign coming. They should campaign this. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know if it's going to have the same literary pedigree that Return of the King had, but it certainly goes to the top of one of the great fantasy science fiction movies I've ever seen. I loved it. Chief Dog 1100 says, do you guys think Gamora 2012 was dusted? That's a good question. Was she dusted? I don't know, because it's not like somebody stopped and introduced her. Nobody knew who she was. Tony Stark didn't know who she was. Maybe she was dusted. That could happen. I'm not really sure about that. Joseph Ziegler says, also distracted. I get in Endgame there's going to be callbacks, but the time travel stakes were a joke other than that. Thanos got a story in Infinity War, but in Endgame he just felt like the guy to punch. I don't know. I thought he was pretty smart. He was the first person to know what was going on. He knew it was time travel. He came up with a counter plan. He got his forces back to the time, the quantum tunnel. I thought he was pretty badass. He was smart. He rocked and rolled. He figured out what was happening, and then he acted, which was great. Isaac Kane. The most beautiful thing about Endgame is how the Russos made sure the original Avengers, the OG Avengers, were central to the story. They made almost all the sacrifice. Cap and Tony's story arcs were wrapped up perfectly. I tend to agree. I thought that was really great, and it really focused on the core Avengers, brought everything full circle. Really liked it. Chief Dog 1100, my dog is certainly here. Endgame was a total comic book lover's wet dream. It certainly was. SJ says, great cameo by the kid from Iron Man 3 at Tony's funeral. Totally agree. I really like that. Nice callback. The Call of Duty God says, day one on Disney Plus, are we going to be able to watch Endgame? Probably, I would imagine so. Why not? Collins Azianim, once again, I'm sorry I'm butchering your name. A small moment, but I love Banner sharing his tacos with Scott. I loved that. That was such a great moment. Just so nice, the way he smiled at him. It was great. I loved Banner in this movie. I really did. Ninja says, Ninja, or NJA? Ninja? Old Thor perhaps too dull and Ragnarok a bit too silly. Perfect mix with Infinity War. Alas, Endgame made CW Superman treatment look dignified. I disagree. You know, I mean, the heroes have to have lost something. Thor lost a lot. And to me, it really made sense what they did with him. I really enjoyed that. Collins Xenium again says, take the goddamn phone. Indeed. Blue Rock says, then Elder Cap gives the shield to Falcon. The same lady who happened to be an African-American said he gave that to a black man in reference to the shield and what it represented. And she started to cry again. This is why I go to the movies. Well, Blue Rock, what a great moment. I mean, again, it's the little things. We don't realize what happens in representation for people. And seeing something like that, the fact that a woman sitting next to you had that, I mean, imagine the world she grew up in, to see that, and now what's going to be the most successful movie ever made. It was probably amazing for her. I mean, what an amazing thing to see. Is Sharon Carter a Captain America relative? Oh, wait, sorry, I missed Koba's question. I love Koba, by the way. Koba says, I get why Thanos destroyed the stones. However, what was his plan for when the population increased again? Surely the snap would have to be repeated every few decades. I mean, since the 1960s, Earth's population doubled. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Again, it's back to normal, so I think Thanos' plan was a little ill-conceived from the get-go, probably. Terrell Wise says, is Sharon Carter Captain America's relative now? It looks that way, at least in that universe. But remember, if it was truly an alternate timeline, they would have never hooked up, so it's not so bad. Juan Major says, an insider confirmed that Far From Home cast were all wiped out at the end of Infinity War and all came back 5 years later, so they continue their lives almost as if nothing happened. Yeah, that could be. I think a few people wouldn't, though. I hope they're going to deal with that. We'll know tomorrow when the spoiler trailer drops. CJ Adams says, it really was the only way. I am Iron Man. So good. So good. What a great callback. I loved it. And really interesting that editor Jeffrey Ford came up with that while they were editing the movie. He said, you know what would be great? It was the editor who came up with that line. So that's cool. Ryan Lohner says, imagine all the poor people who'd moved on with someone else after their partner was dusted and now they're back. Yeah, that would have been quite interesting. Jeremiah Jaquez says, Avengers Assemble. So good. Loved it. Nick Collins says, watched it twice. Need a break for now. Too emotionally draining. Wasn't ready to say bye to the original 6, except Thor as Guardians of the Galaxy. How great was that? I hope they call the next movie instead. I mean, it should be as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'd love to see that. Or maybe just as Guardians of the Galaxy. I'd love to see that too. Tyler Weddle says, I walked out of this movie and immediately thought this is my favorite superhero film ever. Not the best, but my favorite. Need to see it a third time. I agree. I adore this movie. I think it's fantastic. So much in it to love. Really great stuff. Really great stuff. As Widow and Hawkeye landed on Vormir, I was happy and... Oh, pardon me. This is Chief Dog 1100. As Widow and Hawkeye landed on Vormir, I was happy and sad. Sad because I knew one had to die, and was happy because we got to see the Red Skull again. Cry feels. Totally. Yeah, I was like, what are they going to do? And then you realize, oh, no. Hardcore. James Machatin says, 3-part super chat. John and Robert, good morning. Me and my best friend drove the 3 hours to the AMC Dolby Digital in Kansas City. You know the one. It's a 10-hour trip in total. And if I wasn't a frugal bastard trying to complete the heroic feat of sending 3 kids to college, we would be making the trip every day of the week. I think me and her both stopped breathing 30 times. Rob, you were on the bag with Shook. Can't wait to hear all your thoughts. Love you guys, 3,000. Well, thank you for that, James. I appreciate that. Right back at you. Tyler Weddle says, when Pepper says, we're going to be okay, you can rest now, it was like her saying the fans and the MCU telling Robert, it was like saying the fans and the MCU telling Robert Downey Jr. will be okay without him. Let me read that again. Tyler Weddle says, when Pepper says, we're going to be okay, you can rest now, it was like her saying to the fans and the MCU telling Robert Downey Jr. we would be okay without him. I agree. I really like that. I thought that was great. And I agree with you. She was telling everybody. And we will. We're getting Shang-Chi, the Eternals. Who knows who else we're going to get. I can't wait to see. I mean, I know we're going to get Doctor Strange 2 and Black Widow and Guardians of the Galaxy 3, or maybe it's as Guardians of the Galaxy 1. Who knows? Jacob Jansen says, Endgame is by far my favorite Avengers movie. Man, was there a lot of cry time. I wanted to cheer, but nobody did my showing, so I held back so I wouldn't look dumb. What a bad audience. Gilbert, you gotta... This is my dog, Gilbert, and he must go down. He must go down. I know, buddy. Colby Harris says, you know, I think Endgame's pretty damn good, Jacob. The there was a lot of wait. Let me let me read your question again. My dog got in the way there. Jacob Jansen says, Endgame is by far my favorite Avengers movie. Man, was there a lot of cry time. I wanted to cheer, but nobody did my showing, so I held back so I wouldn't look dumb. What a bad audience. Man, that's no fun. My audiences have cheered and clapped and incredible. So, Jacob, you should go again. Find a better theater. Colby Harris says, I'm guessing the Black Widow movie is a prequel. That's what I've heard. That's what I've read, so I would assume it is. And I hope it's a James Bond international romp. I think that'd be really cool. Jacob Jansen says, I didn't like Fat Thor, though. Still love the show. A lot of people didn't. As I said, I really like Fat Thor. I thought it was great. But, that's just me. Everybody's different. Ed Morgan says, hey, John, I completely agree with that. You say that movies being an experience. I love these films because the range of emotions they bring out. Cap-wielding Mjolnir gave me sexual pleasure. Well, Ed, perhaps that's too much information, but I'm glad. I certainly made my blood pump into every part of my body. So maybe you got something there. Ryan Lohner says, Doctor Strange's heart must have been in his throat, hoping this was the one version where a rat randomly gets Scott back. Now, I think that happened in all the millions of versions he saw. Tyler Weddle says, if Cap stayed in the past, then there would be two Caps in that timeline, but then old Cap somehow ended up in the current timeline. By that rule, there would still be a Cap that came out of the ice. Well, yeah, there was the Cap that was frozen in the ice, and there was our Cap, and then when he got to the point he wanted to get to, he returned using that GPS. I think that's how it worked. Tyler Weddle also says, trying not to dwell on plot holes because it was so awesome. I know. They're not plot holes, we just don't understand them yet. But we will. Jacob Jansen says, Falcon is the new Captain America. We don't know yet. We'll see. I don't know how it's going. Colin Aziam is back. Azianum. Cap was worthy this entire time, which meant he was pretending that he couldn't lift Mjolnir in the Age of Ultron. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think that Cap has grown over these films, and he's worthy now because he's come into his own. He believes in himself. He didn't totally believe in himself yet. It was a process after he came out of the ice. It took a while. Albert Gonzalez Jr. says, do you think everyone that was snapped back gained 5 years over everyone else? Meaning, are they now 5 years younger? Yes, Albert, that's exactly what happened. They are all 5 years younger. The unsnapped people are 5 years older. The people that were snapped are 5 years younger. They lost 5 years of their lives. They got to catch up. But who wanted to live in that post-snap world anyway? Luckily, they didn't. It's great. We have half the population that don't know what it's like to live in a world where half the population was decimated. Guy Volt says, they finally showed how powerful Scarlet Witch could be, even Thanos couldn't handle her and had to get help shooting from his ship, hurting his troops. Absolutely. Maybe they're going to set up House of M, and that's how they get mutants into the world. Could be. Never know. I love that. Django 19 says, in Infinity War, only the dwarves can make a gauntlet, but in the Endgame, they make one in 5 minutes. Not a huge deal, but Jeff just left me scratching my head. Thoughts? Science. Tony Stark had years to look at those things, and maybe not all of them, but remember they had Infinity Stones all the way back to Age of Ultron. So there was a lot of science that could have gone on there. And who knows what they got from Captain Marvel? Maybe they have different kinds of technology now. Who knows? Ryan Lohner says, as cool as the girl power shot was, I couldn't help thinking, what exactly is Mantis going to be doing here? And where was Sif? I know, I missed Sif. I miss Lady Sif. I don't know, maybe she was out in the galaxy helping people. Go Robot says, it must have been awkward for those who remarry, then found their previous spouse came back from the snap. Yeah, people said that earlier. I think there's probably a lot of that. A lot of weirdness happened. And if you watch the show Manifest, which I hate watch, the same thing happened. Literally, people disappeared for 5 years and came back. And it deals with that very topic. Jacob Jansen says, Iron Man shouldn't have been able to wield the 6 Infinity Stones. Again, still love the movie. Hawkeye is my favorite character. I thought Hawkeye was great in this movie. I really loved Hawkeye. Brandon M. says, hey, y'all, just finished that 4th viewing. Emotions are just shredded, but it was all worth it. Wife and I agree that last hour was a wet dream. Your wife agrees with that? You've got a great wife. Tell her hello for me. Chief Dog G 1100 says, Thursday, Friday estimates say that 156 million. Any truth to that? Well, as we know, because I'm doing this a little later, $2 billion, baby. $2 billion. Amazing. Guy Volt says, a hilarious scene is Cap whispering Hail Hydra. So good. I love that so much. Go Robot says, the real hero is the rat that pulled out Scott. Absolutely. As someone said earlier, maybe it's Splinter. Jonath 1996 says, I almost had an orgasm when Cap picked up Mjolnir. Almost. Come on. Ed Morgan says, Spider-Man Far From Home is going to be interesting now with half of Peter's class 5 years older. Luckily, MJ was dusted, or that could be weird and illegal. Could be. We'll see what happens. Looking forward to seeing how they deal with it all. Terrell Wise says, what happened to the people of Xandar? Well, as Thor said in Infinity War, Xandar had been attacked a week prior. So whatever happened to Xandar might have been pretty bad. We don't know. Go Robot says, how did Cap return the Soul Stone? Again, that could be a movie in itself. No idea. Interesting story. Maybe revealed another day. Who knows? Maybe we'll see that in a flashback in another movie. Could be. Django 19 says, really, a rat saves Ant-Man? Come on, still enjoyed. Well, why not? Not a plot hole. Could happen. The rat was just scampering through a garage where rats hang out. It just happened. That's it. Things like that happen, you know. Lightning hits things sometimes. You never know. Matt Warner says, in retrospect, the marketing campaign was brilliant. I've never had so many surprises in a movie in my life, and the box office didn't suffer. Wow. You know what? As I said early on, I didn't want to see any trailers for this movie, but barring that, the trailers were perfect. They told us nothing. It was really fantastic. Totally enjoyed it. Yamad says, lost a bet with my friend regarding Iron Man's death. I need to shave my glorious beard now, just like Cap did at the beginning of Endgame. Loved the ending. If you do that, make a YouTube video and send it to us. Let's see. I want to see what it's like. Guy Volt says, I got to know what you felt finally hearing Cap say Avengers Assemble. It was such perfect timing with almost every hero preparing for battles. Chills. Guy, right there with you. I almost, you know, in the comics, he's always holding up his shield and screaming that, but I thought the way they played it in this movie was pretty damn perfect. Verinder Singh says, I just get back from watching it, and I will say that it was a good film with some fantastic moments, but for me, Infinity War was a much more satisfying film in terms of excitement and enjoyment from start to finish. Well, I can see that. It's a different kind of a movie. Endgame was, you know, the dealing with loss and being introspective. That was all different kind of stuff, very different from what happened in Infinity War, but I know where you're coming from. I like them both, and I think as you know, as two sides of the same story, or two different stories, they work beautifully together. And what an achievement! What a cinematic achievement! Brendan M says, "I see what you said about the first and second hours. I like them, but a couple of problems. I also agree with the score during the the Hawkeye Black Widow Soul Stone scene. Yeah, a lot of people said that. I didn't mind it. I guess that's kind of the theme of the Soul Stone. I didn't have a problem with that, really. Tracy E. said, I cried like a baby when Tony and Black Widow died, as you should, by God. Thor is going to be, Ashton Kutcher says, how did Cap return the stones? Wouldn't these all be new timelines that have already been set into motion? Can they bounce between timelines? Would that be dimensional travel? So many questions. Well, Ashton, yes, there are many questions. We shall see what happens moving forward. I like the fact that they didn't explain everything, so there's questions that need to be answered. Tracy E. says, Thor is going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy. Apparently so. I think that's pretty neat. Django 19 says, how can they control who gets snapped? Well, I guess using the Soul Stone and the Mind Stone, you can just picture it and it happens. Guy Volt says, where is Loki now? He escaped using the Space Stone. We don't know, but there is going to be an 8-part series with Loki, so it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. Kyle Starr says, how did Barton hold the Soul Stone? Probably very carefully. Don't know. But he did. I think if I would imagine the Soul Stone, if you've accepted the Soul Stone, if you've earned it, you're probably somehow prepared, because it does something to you. When you wake up in that water, maybe you're prepared to hold it for some. I don't know how it works, but I would imagine it would be that way. Marjahova. So I guess Thor wasn't as powerful as we thought he was in Infinity War, considering Thanos was picking all three of them apart with the axe and hammer. Yeah, but you know, Thor wasn't at his best. Guy Volt says, Rob, what spoiler did you hear before watching? Cap picking up Mjolnir, wielding Mjolnir. I didn't like that. I was pissed. SJ says she put her life down for that goddamn stone. Yeah, she did. She sacrificed a lot, everything she had. But it was a sacrifice. It was meaningful. She saved the universe. Fernando Jamina says, too many plot holes. How come Stormbreaker did not kill a Thanos with no glove? Well, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Thor wasn't up to power levels he should be. We don't know. It didn't bother me, though. Ryan Lohner says, Thor can't bother cleaning up for Tony's funeral. Who knows? Who knows? It's not like he has a big wardrobe of clothes. Folsom53 says, Thor's going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. What are your thoughts? I love that idea. I think it's very, very funny. Clearly, they set up the idea, the ongoing dilemma of who's leading the Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought that was very, very funny. Brent Pham says, yesterday I mentioned Endgame, better female empowerment than LJ. Here's why. Black Widow's death, Ragnarok Thor properly developed, Ragged Luke, okay. Endgame is better female empowerment than Last Jedi. Here's why. Black Widow's death plus Ragged Thor properly developed and Ragged Luke was not. Spider-Man with female... Spider-Man with female power team made sense due to awkward relationships with girls in Spider-Man Homecoming. Leia Poppins did not. Well, thanks for that, Brent. That's good points. I mean, I didn't really think about that. I didn't compare and contrast the movies, but you might have a point there. Tracy E says Black Widow is dead. Is her movie an origin story? I think it might be. I think we're going to see it's going to be a flashback, some kind of a story like that. We'll see. I'm not exactly sure, but I can't wait to see it. Django19 says, we never got a Hulk fight scene. I feel like it was used more as comic relief. Was kind of hoping for his redemption against Thanos. Yeah, I think a lot of people were, but that would have been the easy way out, the easy way to go. They gave us so much fan service. I really thought what they did with Hulk in this movie, I loved it. I thought it was terrific. It was a different way to go. C10 Joker says, Peter Parker was 15 years old in Homecoming. I assume Infinity War was 1.5 or 2 years after that, making him 16 or 17. So is Peter now 21 or 22? People did not age when they were snapped. So he is the same age. Other people who didn't get snapped aged, but he did not. Folsom53 says, favorite Avenger after seeing the film? Mine's probably Cap. I love Cap. I always have. Cap was great in this movie. Brendan M says, what are y'all favorite scenes? Cap with Mjolnir for me. I love that scene. But all those battle scenes were amazing. But I really liked a lot of the scenes in the beginning of the movie with everybody sort of talking to each other. I really did. I love the scene where Pepper and Tony were talking after he discovered time travel, and she's telling him, could you ever rest? That was my biggest failing. I can't get you to rest. I love that. I thought it was great. So I liked all those emotional scenes that had no action in them, because I knew the action was going to be great. I love the scene when we first met Professor Hulk. I loved it. It was so entertaining to me. Guy Volt says, I didn't see Hulk battle or hit anyone the entire movie. No, he didn't. I mean, it was interesting. Interesting way to go. Again, unexpected. I thought it was entertaining. It wasn't what it wasn't the easiest or obvious way to go, but it was still pretty good. Ant-Man punching the flying creatures from Avengers 1 was awesome. I think those are ships, though. I don't think those are creatures. I think those are ships of some kind of, or maybe they're armored flying creatures. I always thought they were ships with people in them. That was from C10 Joker. Brian Clark says, if this is truly the MCU's Return of the King, could this be the film that gets nominated or even wins Best Picture as a way of honoring the achievement of the entire franchise? Well, Brian Clark, that's very possible. Could very well be. Although, I still think there's a big prejudice against superhero movies, so probably not. C10 Joker says, seen Endgame 5 times, and at this point, my favorite moment is Cap's Mjolnir moment, and hearing the audience's reaction. It's such a great moment. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Phil Bianco says, hey, John Robert, do you think all the new movies and shows that may take place in the alt timelines will tell us, or will we have to figure it out ourselves? Will this hurt or help the chance of crossovers? I think they're going to deal with this. Oh, this was from Phil Bianco. I think, Phil, I think you're going to see this in the TV shows. I think they're going to deal with this. I think they are. I think we're going to see that. Django19 says, do you think this is the weakest of the Russo's MCU movies? Absolutely not. I think the emotion and the pathos was good, Django. I still really enjoyed it, but the other ones are all in my top 5 MCU movies. You know what? I think this movie's really gonna grow on people, and it's obviously having the intended effect. It's just different. It's different. It's more emotional. I really liked it. Brendan M. says, the theater erupted like a championship sporting event at I Am Iron Man, which probably just became one of the most iconic lines in film history for many. I agree, Brendan, and it's interesting to note that it was editor Jeffrey Ford who came up with it. When they were cutting the movie, he said there needed to be a line, and they went out and filmed it. It wasn't even in the original script, amazingly enough. That's the power of movie making. You're never done until you're done, and even then, you're just abandoning it. Nathan Jeffcoat says, who would you like to see as the next big bad? It depends. Depends how they go with the Avengers. I'm still hoping for Galactus. Really would love Galactus or Kang the Conqueror. I really would. Mad Poncho says, Cap being with Peggy, wouldn't that mess things up? Don't think so, because it's a different universe. I don't think it would mess things up. Guy Volt says, were you okay with Captain Marvel finding Tony in space? Absolutely. Because she probably was flying, once she arrived on Earth, she probably was flying on her way to Titan directly from Earth, which is the same course that they would have been on, and her finding them seemed natural. I like that. Brendan M. says, really curious about the Black Widow movie now. Me too. I can't wait to see it. I hope it's more of a Bond film. We saw a little Bond-esque stuff when Black Panther went to Korea. I'd love to see more of that on a global scale. Ryan Lohner says, looking forward to all the people whining they were promised Wolverine. Yeah, I didn't think that was ever going to happen, but you never know. But I'm glad we didn't. They needed to focus. They needed to really bring the Infinity Saga to an end, and I think they did a great job of that. Barutz Herulov. Herulov? Nothing is forever. Your home, your family, or yourself. One of the many lessons to be taken away. It's about living life to the fullest at any given point in time. Thor lost everything and himself. Totally agree. Great point you're making there, Baruz. Thanks for writing in. That is a great, great point. Spencer Main says, I love you 3000. We love you right back, Spencer. Absolutely. Jonathan says, 1996 says, if Thor went to Vormir to get the Soul Stone, he could have just thrown down some beer to get the stone because that's what he loves. Pretty funny. I like that. But I don't think that would have worked. I think somebody you love has to have a soul as well. It's a soul for a soul. Alex Von Gollum says, I suspected Nat would have a great character arc in Endgame. Let me go, it's okay. What a performance from her, and what a moment. Absolute cry time of mine. Well, Alex, I agree. That was an amazing moment from Black Widow. Really, 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 really great stuff. Django19 says, I enjoyed the Fat Thor jokes, but I really wish we could have gotten OG Thor in the final battle. Wanted to see the trio in their best form. Still happy. Well, you know what? You can't get that body overnight, man. It's going to take a while. You know, you drink yourself into oblivion in 5 years, you got to pay the piper. And I think he did, but he's going to get back there. Brian Clark says, you've got to hand it to marketing with a campaign that got us all to be in the theater without showing us basically anything. It paid off with a movie that surprised us all at every turn. I wish every movie was marketed that way. I did love it. Absolutely loved it. Phil Bianco says, so is Peter Parker 5 years behind everyone in high school now? How do you think that will be explained? No. Because he's in the same grade he left. It's just there's new people. Half the people in his class would be new people that were 5 years younger when he was snapped. That's how it works. Mike Thompson says, we finally got to see instant kill. Amazing, right? I love that too. And then it didn't work. C10 Joker says, don't do anything stupid until I get back. How can I? You're taking all the stupid with you. Love the callback. It was great. That's why these movies are so much fun. There's so much care and love put into them. Luke Bampton says, do you think it could have made more money had it shown more action in the trailer's marketing, like the end battle scene or the Thanos fight, etc.? No. I don't think I think it was perfect, and I think the amount of money it's making, it's going to be the #1 movie of all time. It's just amazing. People are loving it. Brendan M. says, so Thor could be in Guardians 3. Intrigued with that, and Gamora starting over her character development too. If she's there, did she get dusted? Nebula Drax dynamic seems greatly well. It certainly does. Loved it. Thanks for that, Brendan M. Barutz, Heraluva, Hail Hydra. Well, Barutz, absolutely. Baruz, Hail Hydra to you too. Mauricio Floresmeyer says, I truly lost it when Cap said, Avengers Assemble. I think we all did. I know I did. Deadpool Chinese says, I always say they can find Tony. Rocket has GPS. That's true. That's true. Lavery Adams says, just a super chat. Thanks for the support, man. Mike Thompson says, T'Challa remembered Clint's name. He does care. He does care. He's T'Challa. It was awesome. That was a great moment. Aaron Strelinsky said, should have just had Stan Lee at Tony's funeral. Wow, that would have been great. But I don't. It was probably something they didn't think about. But I did love seeing him as the Make Love Not War guy with the Nuff Said bumper sticker. So good. Baby Boy 8603 says, I love the fact that this movie also gave us an idea of where the Marvel shows on Disney Plus will go, such as Loki's show and Falcon and Winter Soldier. I did too. I thought we learned a lot from that, and I thought it was great. Django 19 says, shouldn't Ned be 5 years older, or he was dusted too? I think he was dusted too, Django 19. Absolutely do. Matt Phillips Reviews says, my only gripe with Endgame is that Hulk never got his revenge on Thanos. Well, you know, he did reverse the snap. So Hulk reversed Thanos' snap. I don't think there's something better Thor could have done. He reversed Thanos' plans, defeated the best laid plans of Thanos. It's just a different kind of defeat. My only gripe with Endgame is that Thor never got his revenge on Thanos. I like how the Endgame scenes with Loki, Hawkeye, and Sam stories could lead into their respective Disney Plus shows. They absolutely will. I think it's great. Daniel Weiss says, loved Endgame and hope they never use time travel again. I kind of do too. It's good. Phil Bianco says, still kind of miss Sharon Carter. Who wouldn't? Aaron Strelinsky says, did you notice during the brainstorming session the Hulk was eating Ben & Jerry's Hulka Burning Fudge ice cream? I did, and that was great. Loved it. Bames John said, Wanda done justice here. This is exactly how powerful she should be. Actually bested Thanos one-on-one, something not even Carol, Thor, Iron Man, non-stones, Cap, or Hulk could. Thanos had panic in his eyes. I loved it, and he didn't even know who she was. C10 Joker says, the amount of times this movie makes no sense, yet you don't even care, because holy shit, that last hour. I don't know, I think it made a lot more sense than people give it credit for, but I agree with you, man. You're whisked along by tremendous entertainment. Baby Boy 8603 says, it started with Tony, it ended with Tony. Also, Cap got his dance. I truly enjoyed the callback Endgame did to referencing previous MCU movies. Baby Boy 8603, couldn't agree with you more. It was fantastic, and that's why it was so good. It resonated. It was great. Brendan M says, funny lines that got me. America's ass. Hail Hydra with Tony. She loves me 3000, and you're around 600, 900. What were some of your all favorite lines? I loved everything Thanos said, to be honest. I am inevitable. I love that. I thought it was great. Bernard Gaitan says, loved it, but I feel so sad the captain is retired. Me too, but that's life. 11 years. I mean, think about it. We got the MCU for 11 years. Think about a person's lifespan. If you live to be 80, you only get to live 8 decades. So that would mean more than 10% of your life was taken up with the MCU. That's pretty good, man. How much more do you want in life? Guy Volt says, what are your thoughts how Thanos was used in this movie? I was wondering how they would use him again since he died right from the start. Loved it. Guy, I loved it. I thought it was great. They did a great job. Householder Film says, Cap's end was so well done. Made me cry. Made me cry too. Jace Little says, didn't fully understand the time travel rules. Did you? Well, I think, I've read a little bit about it. It's quantum. It's going through the quantum realm. It's not regular time travel. It's not a linear, you can't jump back in time. It's fragmented. It's different. It's quantum mechanics. Lavrie Adams says Thanos created the X-Men by blowing up the quantum van. I don't know. That's interesting. I think more that it would be House of M or something, because after all, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are in fact mutants. So there are mutants in the MCU. They just weren't called that. So we'll see. Baby Boy 8603 says, I may be the only one, but Rocket is one of my favorite characters in the MCU. I love Rocket. Rocket's so great. Loved him in this film. Rocket and Thor are hilarious on screen. I agree, they are. Phil Bianco says, top 5 cheering moments for me. Thor going for the head. Cap saying, Hail Hydra. She has help. Cap wielding Mjolnir and on your left, and everything that followed until Avengers assemble. I agree, Phil. It was amazing. KW Jarrett 83 says, so rumors of a Black Widow movie were a fake out? No, that movie starts filming next month. They were not. KW Garrett 83. Shibaji Rochaudhry. Shibaji Rochaudhry says, so, I love that name, by the way. Sorry, I can't say it. So, who is more powerful between Captain Marvel and Scarlet Witch? I'd say they're different powers, but I think Scarlet Witch's powers have not been the depths of her powers have not been plumbed yet. We'll see. Roy L says, Cap holding Thor's hammer was the most awesome thing in comic book movie history. Wet my pants, moment of joy. You said it, Roy. I agree. Guy Volt saying, Thanos, I am inevitable. Tony, I am Iron Man. Will give us chills for the rest of time. Shibaji Rochaudhry says, did Thunderbolt Ross give up on the Sokovia Accords? He was there at Tony's funeral. I don't think so. They saved the world. What's past is prologue. Roy L said, watch this movie 4 times already. Cry time at every viewing. Seeing it again on Thursday for the 5th time. Wow, dude. How many times have you seen it now? I think it's great. I love this movie too. I've only seen it 3 times. Patrick O'Connell said for X-Men. He's got a couple of things you're saying here. Patrick O'Connell says, over or under 30, the Snap's cosmic energy release will be the cause of X-Men Phase 4 for the X-Men Phase 4. Could be. You never know. Or it could be something else. Everything is a guess at this point. We will see. Roy L says, after my wife saw it yesterday for the first time, she didn't realize how many female characters there were in the MCU until that one scene. Yeah, there are. There's been a lot of female characters in the MCU, more than people give credit for. So, and there they were. Ash Cartwright said, could Guardians of the Galaxy 3 not be called Volume 3, but be called As Guardians of the Galaxy and embark on new adventures from there? I think so. I think it'd be pretty cool if they did that. Verinder Singh says, Cap giving Sam the shield was such a nice moment. I agree. Loved it, loved it, loved it. KW Garrett 83 says, knew Tony was doomed when he talked to Pepper about burying the time travel formula. Had this will lead to my death vibe. Will Robert Downey Jr. return as a hologram? He always could. He always could. You never know. But I think I knew he was doomed from there too. Luis Blanco says, sweet Build-A-Bear, I mean sweet rabbit. Laugh out loud. That was a very funny line. Very funny. I still don't know what Rocket says back to him because everyone's laughing. Roy L says that the funeral was at the kid from Iron Man 3. Yes. Yes, it was. Snake Jerusalem says, Marvel Studios probably won't be able to repeat the success of the last 11 years, but we will always have the Infinity Saga to look back to. Don't count Marvel out. They're going to do new things, which I'm pretty excited about, so we shall see. Richard Karate says, is everyone forgetting the scene in the battle where Dominic Toretto comes and defeats Thanos' army single-handedly while the rest of the heroes are sitting around eating cheeseburgers? I love that scene. Yeah, and still no justice for Han, Richard. No justice for Han. But that was pretty funny. Patrick O'Donnell says, Black Widow's death was underwhelming first viewing because I just assumed she was going to be brought back later on. But damn, right, son? Damn, son, she's gone. Yamid says, Joe Russo's cameo is the first openly gay character in the MCU. That is correct. I like that scene. A lot of people didn't, but I really liked it a lot. Barth Revan says, Thor dual-wielding the axe and the hammer made me giddy. Was brought to my feet screaming when Cap caught Mjolnir and fought with it. Can they top that in 10 years? I don't know, but I'm sure they're going to try. But who knows what they're going to do? I don't know. But I'm sure it'll be awesome. KDS says, I hope Tony and Widow stay dead. Me too. Gamora might be dead too. Roy L says, I heard about the guy who got his ass beat for shouting Endgame spoilers to people waiting in line to see the movie. What a dumb move. I agree. I'm not saying anybody deserves violence, but what did he expect? I mean, people were in a lather before they went and saw the movie. Can you imagine? That wouldn't have been a good thing to do. Drew Bell says, who had a more emotional death scene, Tony or Logan? I don't know. I think Tony had so much more. I don't know. I thought Tony's was more resonant. Collins Zenyum. Jim Starlin, creative Thanos and the Infinity Stones, has a cameo in Endgame. Cool. He's the bald gentleman with glasses in the support group. I love that. I love Jim Starlin. I've always loved him as a creator. I love that he created Thanos and another character called the Lord High Papal from the comic book Dreadstar that is very Thanos-esque. Love Jim Starlin. Gabriel Reed says, Endgame was an experience of a lifetime. Legitimately cried when Cap wielded Mjolnir. When all of our heroes came out, I sobbed like a baby. That was one of two. Did I miss one? Let's see. I felt like I was reading a double-page spread 20 years ago. I took my 2 daughters, and they loved it. Tears of happiness. But when Tony died, I felt devastated, but he had a good run and died a hero. I agree, Gabriel. That's a great. It was great. Fantastic. And I'm glad. I'm glad your 2 daughters loved it. That's good. Good on you for being that kind of a dad. Patrick O'Connell says, I need a documentary or short series on the making creative process of these 22 films. I would love to see an extended documentary on that. I hope they make one. Who is responsible for what? From Feige to Joss Whedon to the Russos, etc. I think that's a great idea. Love it. Gabriel Reed also says, Iron Man is my favorite in the MCU and one of my favorites growing up, and the metal clinking at the end just turned the knife even more. Yeah, now that I know that it's a callback to Tony Stark, I agree with you. I think it's great. Well, everyone, I'm going to leave this video. There's going to be a couple more. This is going to be a multi-part companion video. Return with me. I've got a lot more questions to read, but I can barely speak. So I'm going to end this now, but join me again shortly for more of your questions. You can find me. My name is Robert Meyer Burnett. You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find me on my companion, or actually my own YouTube channel, The Burnettwork, or its companion website, theburnettwork.net. Thanks for being here, and thanks for everybody watching the John Campea Show and continuing to generously support the channel. Thanks very much.